Joining me to discuss this and his new book, The Trump Century, How Our President Changed the Course of History Forever, which is out this week, is Lou Dobbs. You can watch him on Fox Business. Lou joins us via phone. Good afternoon to you, sir.
Good afternoon, Dana. Great to be with you. Thanks for the invite.
Of course. I have got to get your reaction to just what we played there this morning. The president goes to pay his respects to the late Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and the crowd outside acts like children, screaming and hollering and booing. And that was just, such a bizarre optic. What does that tell you when you see this kind of behavior, even in this formal, somber setting like this?
The transformation of the Democrat Party to the party of hate is complete. They sounded, as I'm listening to this, Dana, right this moment, they sounded like the demons of hell. The ignorance, the venom, the viciousness of the moment is unlike anything that we have seen before. The setting, the moment that should have been one of tranquility and mutual respect turned into that by what are no better than animals. It is appalling what they are doing to this president, what they are doing to the country, and without comment or any suggestion of breaking from this path to hell they're on by their leaders. It's a remarkable moment in history, and I would urge all your listeners to pay close attention to every moment of it, because this is a moment in history that will be marked for decades to come.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that at all, and I also think too that for so long, I think they were able to fool maybe perhaps some independents out there, some people who just maybe they didn't follow politics closely enough to have a side with which they identified regularly. But even with their behavior now, I mean, it's just the mask is off, the curtain's torn, it's all out on display. This isn't about injustice. It's not about equality. This is about accumulating power. It's all about power. It's not a protest. It's a revolution for power. Your thoughts on that, especially as you see everything unfold in Louisville?
With that backdrop, it's all the more disappointing, even tragic, to think what has become of the national left-wing media, to whom we can't turn for truth. We can't turn to for even the first draft of history because it's so filled with lies and distortions. My thought about the question that was asked of President Trump, and then all of the focus in the national left-wing media because he wouldn't commit to the transfer of power. He did commit to the continuation if the ballots are fairly counted, which I think is important. But why isn't that question more properly asked by the national left-wing media of fake news, of all the left-wing news outlets in this country, whether it's the Washington Post, the New York Times, ABC News, MSNBC, CNN? How about this question to them? Why did you not accept the election of 2016 and fight in every way to overthrow this president for 4 years? That's the proper question.
Yes. And
not
that's
the transfer of power.
Exactly. That's it, because ultimately it's been Democrats who've had a problem with accepting the results of a free and fair election. And it's been Democrats who have fought against a peaceful transfer of power. I mean, if anything with the Mueller investigation and the witch hunt with that is any indication, which to that point, Lou, and then I want to ask you about your book because it dovetails so well with this. These headlines about Eric Trump being called in to discuss a meeting that he had while simultaneously no one's asking any questions about Hunter Biden and the revelations that are coming from this report on him is as if anyone needed any further evidence of the lopsidedness of legacy media. This is it. Unbelievable that no one's asked, where's Hunter? What has Hunter been doing? He's off painting. Meanwhile, they're going after Eric Trump, who really, out of all of the Trump children, has been really ultimately, I think, the least involved in the political day-to-day.
At least publicly, I think he's very important to the president and to the election campaign. But you're right, and it's a perfect analog, a perfect contrast between Eric Trump and Hunter Biden. One, a man who on its face is a subject of a senatorial investigation, and the refusal of the deep state and the permanent bureaucracy to respond to questions from the Senate Homeland Security Committee, from the Judiciary Committee, an absolute refusal from the executive branch that ostensibly is under the control of the President of the United States, right? But no, the deep state is demonstrating its strength, its power, its control over government. And that's why there is such an all-out effort to overthrow this president, cheat, lie, steal, whatever is required by the Democrats, because they must not permit him to succeed in being reelected, because they know that he will strip them of whatever strength they have remaining, and that the party is effectively doomed. On the other hand, if the Democrats win, we'll never know the answer to those questions that the Senate Homeland Security Committee and Judiciary sent over to all of the executive branches. John Durham will, as John Solomon said it last night on my broadcast, we'll never know what happened because John Durham will be somewhere in Connecticut and no longer involved in an investigation. We desperately deserve the truth. We desperately need a government that is restored to us, and only this president can achieve that.
And to this point, your new book that is out this week, how the Trump century, how our president changed the course of history forever. And congrats on the release of this book, by the way. You touch on a couple of things in this, because there's one thing that I always sort of felt like, and this goes back to the Tea Party back in 2009 and 2010. It always did feel as though conservatives weren't just pushing back against the far left in Democrats, but also I would say even the left-leaning Republicans that always previously told us, well, you ignore the culture war and you ignore this and you ignore immigration and you don't talk about any of these issues, that as we saw in 2016, those three issues were the top of every single exit poll, no matter where you pulled it from in the United States, and helped carry the president to victory. And they're still hugely important issues. This plus the massive comeback that we have made. I don't know of a president that has had two comebacks now. One after the Obama economy, and now this one after the pandemic and the subsequent lockdown. There is, sadly, we don't even see discussion of that. It's also entirely one-sided. But with this, I really think that, is this a new era kind of conservatism that is being born, and that we'll look back in history and say, oh, this was the moment when, Republicans became, for the lack of a better way to put it, more in service of conservatives instead of the other way around, instead of always having to fulfill the party line. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Or fulfill their obeisance to corporate America's power. This is the Trump party now, and it is a party that means most to working men and women in this country, their families, to the middle class, which I believe is fundamental, the base foundation of our great republic. This is a president who has pushed away the military. Think about this: the military-industrial complex. This man would be a hero in almost any term of any other president's office for standing up against the military-industrial complex, for standing up for our troops and bringing them home, for standing up for the working man and woman in this country. The left should be cheering him. I think independents, by the way, on November 3rd will show you how much they appreciate him, even if the radical Dems have to follow in lockstep the zombie-like left leadership. So I think this is all very important, because he's changed the party. He's put in almost 300 judges and justices. He'll have a third justice appointed and confirmed to the Supreme Court before Election Day. He has pushed the idea of free trade completely out of the public arena. It's interesting what we don't hear anymore as a result of this president. We don't hear about free trade and all the lies that surrounded it as they stole trillions of dollars. Corporate America stole trillions of dollars from America, threw away millions of jobs as they outsourced them to cheap foreign labor markets, and invested hundreds of billions of dollars in plants overseas. You don't hear that discussion anymore because this president is bringing about those plants. Jobs are coming back to this country. He's created almost 8 million jobs. He's creating many more now, as you alluded to, as he leads this comeback against the China virus pandemic that we've all had to contend with. He is a president for the ages, and this scares the left more than anything because every one of their programmatic responses to a social or economic issue is shown to be hollow, silly, and a fraud on the intellect.
And we're seeing the contrast between what they offer and what the administration offers. I love how they've been putting that message of freedom versus socialism, or really Marxism, right front and center. Lou Dobbs' latest book, The Trump Century: How Our President Changed the Course of History Forever. Lou, always a pleasure. Enjoy you on Fox Business. Thanks for your time today.